I'm not gonna lie, I find this entire part of the Jazwares Pokemon line to be kinda weird. From Jazwares and their Pokemon line, specifically their Trainer Select line, we have the Metallic Squirtle and the Translucent Gengar. The story on these guys is basically every time I go into a GameStop or a lot of stores, I'll find these figures. They're always about 3 to 4 inches tall, and it's kind of an evergreen line. They always just have very popular Pokemon in these boxes, and each wave has a different gimmick. So I've seen them as pearlescent figures, I've seen them as translucent figures, I've seen them as metallic figures, I've seen them as being normal. I could be crazy, but I think I might have seen like an Eevee that was flocked or something. I don't know. But I eventually bit the bullet on a couple of these guys, most of my favorites. So I have Gengar here, who is the translucent. You can see he came from Wave 2, had a Pikachu, Gengar, Ditto, and Charmander. I actually have that Ditto. I think I did a review of him at one point. As for the Squirtle, he came from Series 1 of the Metallic line. You get Pikachu, Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur. As I'm sure you've probably noticed, you get Charmander and Pikachu a lot in this line. But still, I enjoy lines like this for no other reason than if you're a kid, it means that you get to have the mainstays all the time. I think every toy line should strive to do this, right? If you have a DC line, there should always be a Batman, a Superman, a Joker, a Wonder Woman. All those characters should be on the shelves all the time, because you never know when someone's going to start their collection. So, in that way, I like these figures. I don't know if I'm going to go real all in on this line the way I do the usual Jazwares Pokemon figures. I guess what I think of these two today is going to kind of decide that for me. I have Squirtle out first, and it doesn't come across on my camera really well, but I love this shade of blue on the Squirtle. It's very bright and poppy. It's great looking. The entire figure actually does look really nice with these kind of more shiny bronze colors. There is a little bit of paint overspray. If you look around the arms, you can see where the blue seeped out onto the shell, but overall, this is a decent little Squirtle. No articulation on the go, but he is fairly tall. Let me bring in this little Lex Luthor here. He stands about 3 inches tall, about-ish. And yeah, I'm really just taken with everything. The pose, the look, the energy. If I was a little kid, especially because Squirtle was my favorite for a long time, I would have adored this thing. The only thing that could have made it better was, and I could be wrong, I think these are supposed to be white down here on Squirtle's feet. I could be super wrong about that, though, the more I'm thinking about it. But aside from that nitpick, everything here is really solid. Gengar is weird. I was really excited for this figure because one of my favorite Pokemon figures of all time is the 90s Gengar that was translucent. I always thought that was such a great looking figure. This Gengar is fine, but it's almost so opaque you can't really tell it's translucent. Alongside that, I would have thought there was articulation cuts here. These aren't cuts. There is no articulation to this figure. It's static. It's a good looking Gengar, don't get me wrong. Good size, good heft. It would work well in any collection. I was just wanting more from the translucency here. I'm bringing my light in, and you can see, like, it doesn't really show. It's a shame, because this could have been a real slam dunk of a figure, but in all honesty, the figure I thought was going to, like, really win me over, this Gengar, is playing second fiddle to that Squirtle. If I had to recommend one of these, it would depend on what your collection looks like. If you just straight up do not have a Gengar, I would say go for this Gengar. Because even if the translucent effect isn't great, it's still a really great depiction of the Pokemon who'd be in scale with your Tomies. As for like which one I prefer though, it's the Squirtle. Because it's bigger than most of my Squirtles, I like the pose more, and well, at this point I have enough Gengars to have Gengars I prefer over this one. So overall, neither one of these are going to set the world on fire, but they're solid enough little Pokemon figures. And at the end of the day, I think that's all they needed to be.